What's going on? Welcome to another episode of Off the Schneid. Today we're taking a look at the Arizona Cardinals draft needs heading into the 2021 NFL draft post free agency. We'll start on offense. Kenyon Drake's gone. I actually don't think that the Cards are too upset about that. I think that they knew that Chase Edmonds was the better back all year. I think he played in more spots, more situations, everything like that. I think that he is absolutely not only a complimentary. I think you can play him. He can line up in the slot potentially. He did a bunch last year, and I think he can catch a lot of balls out of the backfield as well as run the ball. Not exactly between the tackles type of guy, but he's absolutely a very good quality complimentary back. One of the better in the league, in my opinion. So they're going to have to add, though. They're going to have to add a kind of between the tackles type guy. And depending on how the draft goes, at 16 might be something to think about, at least think about, if a guy like Najee Harris, you know what I mean? Like, man, if Najee Harris was on this team, this would be a dangerous, dangerous offense, in my opinion. So maybe keep an eye out for my mock draft coming out in a couple of weeks. We'll see what the Cards do there. Kyler Murray, obviously, no worries there as far as quarterback is concerned. He runs the ball a ton as well. I think he takes a reasonable step forward this year. I think he makes that move towards being a guy in the league. We'll see, but I quite like Kyler Murray heading into this year. Tight end, I think, is a huge need now. I like Dan Arnold. So if you look through Cliff Kingsbury's offenses, he doesn't really use tight ends a ton outside of Jay Sternberger at Texas A&M a while back, and then Dan Arnold this year. But Dan Arnold especially was a mismatch nightmare for linebackers. So, he could use him more like a wide receiver than, Jay Sternberger, I suppose, but you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't really use tight ends a crazy amount. So maybe he just stays with this and Max Williams is, catches a couple balls. Darrell Daniels looked decent, at times. So those two guys could potentially just get it done, and they don't use them a lot, in the red zone maybe, but not a ton outside of that. So benny they just stay firm with what they have at tight end and, go with the wide receivers that they do have, bringing in AJ Green, former Bengal. We'll see if he can still get the job done. I mean, he definitely didn't look great last year, but there was quite a bit of issues with the Bengals offense. I mean, offensive line, quarterback, when Joe Burrow went down, and even running back. There's lots of issues on the Bengals offense last year. So he didn't really have, a ton of opportunity to succeed. So we'll see what he does here. Running mate with Nuke Hopkins, who's still one of the best in the game. I was a little hesitant to say he was a top 3 guy coming from Houston to Arizona, but he proved it, in my opinion, that he is still a top 3 guy in this league, and can still absolutely, I guess that says a lot about Kyler Murray as well. But either way, Nuke Hopkins is absolutely top 3 wide receiver, one of the best in the game, no question. And then you got Christian Kirk, Andy Isabella, that can kind of do some slot things. I like both those guys running out of the slot. So, and then Christian Kirk can line up outside as well. Keyshawn Johnson's still there. He looked okay in spurts a couple years ago. But they could look to add a wide receiver, and I think they probably will at some point. Maybe they trade down somewhere. They only have a first and second, and then nothing till the 5th round. So they could look to trade back, add some capital, and shore up a couple more holes that they do have. Depending on what they do at 16, that's a huge pick for them, and it depends on who's there, what's going on in the draft, everything like that. Keep an eye out for the mock draft, and we'll see what ends up happening there. Offensive line is actually in a pretty good spot. They got a lot of depth there, in my opinion. Kelvin Beachum ended up playing a pretty prominent role for this offensive line. Marcus Gilbert's back after opting out last year. Josh Jones was there. He dropped last year in the draft. But either way, I had him projected as a first-round pick. I think he dropped to the second or third, maybe third round. Either way, he's still there. That's a fantastic depth piece and maybe starter. Justin Pugh, Rodney Hudson, Brian Winters, solid up the middle. Max Garcia is there for depth as well. Like I said, Marcus Gilbert, if you need to slide him inside, something like that, or Beecham or Jones, whatever. You got a lot of swing guys here that can, fill a hole if you really need it, right? And then Max Garcia can play center as well. So I think there's a fair amount of depth here. I think they probably will chuck a dart in the 6th or 7th round. Just to you got to pick an offensive lineman, in my opinion, every draft. So I think they'll probably chuck a dart with one of those 6th or 7th round picks as a developmental guy and just see if you can mold a guy into being a future player at some point. So there's the offense. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, obviously a huge acquisition in JJ Watt coming in. I think he'll be reinvigorated in Arizona. If you see, on Twitter and Instagram and everything like that, he seems to be working his butt off right now to get better himself and to be a leader on this team. With him and Chandler Jones missed the majority of the season last year. I think he played only about 4 or 5 games. So with him back and JJ Watt in the fold now, Isaiah Simmons in his 2nd season, Jordan Hicks is still very, very good. Jordan Phillips is there, Rashard Lawrence, Lecky Fotu, Zach Allen, like these guys, even Dennis Gardeck had 7 sacks last year in a rotational role. They lost to Son Reddick, but that is something that they could look to address in the draft as well. At 16, that could be something I look at for them. Absolutely, at 16 is an outside linebacker. Marcus Golden and Devon Kennard can probably, in a rotational and see who the best guy is type of thing. Whoever wins the battle, they could probably get it done. But if you have a guy at 16 that can come in and just change this defense with everything that you have already, and they're kind of going to need it because the back end is not the greatest position. Malcolm Butler comes in, but he's not what he once was. Byron Murphy is very good, but outside of that, you're in a tough spot. Budda Baker is maybe the best, but top 3 safety in the game for sure. So that helps a ton. Charles Washington and Deontay Thompson can kind of be those guys as well. But Robert Alford is not the guy. Malcolm Butler's not what he used to be. Kevin Peterson's not the guy. So there you go. Like, what do you do there? Do you just beef up the front end to help out the back end? I mean, that's not a bad plan at all. If you got, Chandler Jones, Gardeck, JJ Watt, all attacking the quarterback, and then throw a blitz in there with Isaiah Simmons and another guy that you draft, sort of thing. Like this defense can be pretty potent. Vance Joseph is a very good defensive mind. Fantastic, very good is what I was going with there. Defensive mind and defensive coordinator in this league. So you give him some more pieces, and Cliff Kingsbury, I don't think he needs much more to be effective as a play caller. So there's a lot of options for the Cards in this draft. Not a ton of capital, so they're going to have to, make good on those 2 picks if they end up staying where they're at. We'll see what they end up doing. Keep an eye out for the mock draft, like I've said. So there you go. Let me know what you think in the comments about the Cards. I think there's a lot of good stuff to look forward to. I think they can absolutely push to win this division. Absolutely. So we'll see. Let me know what you think in the comments. Leave a like and hit the subscribe button on your way out. And we'll see you on the next team breakdown.